The gods are powerful beings that dominate reality itself with their cosmic powers and domination of the natural forces. The mightiest control the fabric of space and time, life and death, while others rule concepts like creativity and victory. Good, bad, and neutral gods are being worshipped, praised, and revered by the masses who align with their powers. On Magic the Gathering's Plane of Theros, this is how things are. But it was not always that way. Darkness, chaos, and dread. These forces plague the lives of the mortals who called Theros their home. Nyx, the powerful realm of the gods, a place that creates divinity from the worship of its people, also has a dark side. It creates monsters, it creates demons, and in ages long past, it also created the Titans. Born out of the primal fears of the masses, the Titans laid waste to Theros eons ago. Kroxa, Phlage, Skotha. Hunger, fire, darkness, and nature. These names and forces haunted all who simply tried to survive here. Unlike the gods, the Titans were not beings of civilization, worship, or philosophy. They were older, much more primal beings, less human. The Titans of Theros are essentially living embodiments of humanity's oldest fears, forces so ancient and overwhelming that the world itself seemed to dream them into existence. These beings are not evil, they're just natural. And that's freaking sick, dude. Sorry, I know I got a little bit of a drama bone creeping inside of me sometimes, and I kind of have to get it out. My fantastic editor, shout out to you, does some absolutely crazy stuff, as you know, with the intros of these videos, and I just sometimes love to see what he cooks up when I get these uber dramatic things sometimes. But yeah, the Titans of Theros do deserve that sort of epic myth storytelling. They are insatiable beasts that nearly destroyed the plane of Theros itself and literally could not be defeated by those who opposed them in the eons past. According to the myths, it took the combined effort of all the gods to imprison them deep beneath the world, trapped in the darkest depth of the underworld itself. In the timeline of Theros, this victory then became one of the defining moments because it essentially legitimized the gods as protectors of civilization. Suddenly, the gods weren't just worshipped into existence, they were necessary to stop foes like the Titans from existing and threatening everything. But the Titans, imprisoned in the great darkness of hell, could not simply be constrained. Someone needed to act as their jailer. A great god needed to sacrifice their influence, their worship, and their role in the cosmos just to keep them sealed away. And only two were actually able to do so: Kroxa and Klothys. These two primal gods were the oldest worshipped into existence through the magic of Nyx, but Kroxa, god of time and horizons, and Klothys, goddess of destiny, behaved differently than all the other gods of Theros. They held dominion over much bigger concepts than the other gods, and thus the typical direct worship of Nyx didn't really apply to them. So long as people believed in the concepts of time and space, Kroxa could exist, and as long as they believed in destiny, Klothys could as well. They didn't really need direct worship to exist, and thus one of them was able to become the Warden of the Titans. Klothys, the goddess of destiny herself, took it upon herself to bear this heavy burden. She alone acted as the eternal jailer of the Titans, remaining beneath the surface of Theros in the deepest section of the underworld to ensure that these ancient beings never escaped again. So while all the other gods fought, schemed, and obsessed over worship, Klothys quietly maintained the balance of reality itself, all so that the Titans couldn't run wild again and destroy Theros with their primordial power. Now, what I find truly fascinating though is that the Titans aren't really treated as villains in the story. Again, they're more like these fundamental truths of existence, fears made cosmic flesh by the collective agreement that these things are scary and dangerous. Hunger, fire, darkness, and nature exist, and they are terrifying. They are these primordial fears, and that's why they were sealed, because you can't destroy these things. You can only try your best to contain them, until the moment comes that the Titans are released to deal actually with a much greater threat than one single plane can handle. We'll get to that. Who first, though, are the Titans? What does each Titan actually do? What are they based on, and how important are they in the story overall? Well, don't you worry, big dog. We're here to talk about each and every one of them, starting with the most important one, Kroxa. Out of all the Titans beneath Theros, Kroxa is by far the most important in the actual story of magic. He's the only Titan with 2 cards, and he appears in both Theros Beyond Death and March of the Machine. But who is he really? When he goes out to the cosmic bar, what do his friends call him? Well, he is the Titan of Death's Hunger, a colossal nightmare with a big hole in his belly. He's directly inspired by Cronus, the Titan king of Greek mythology who devoured his own children, which actually explains why he's the Titan of Hunger and Consumption, a touch of death that doesn't know when to stop gobbling up everything in sight. This of course manifests in his card abilities, in which he forces your opponents to discard cards and even lose life depending on what they discarded. His hunger consumes your enemy's decks. He also exiles cards from the graveyard, consuming death itself. Interestingly enough, Magic the Gathering seems to view this avarice and gluttony as a truly universal, primal bad thing. Because the Eldrazi Titan, Ulamog, is also a Titan of consumption, but rather than, being a being with a big old tummy, Papamog here is a massive eldritch horror, larger than some of the planes themselves, who he consumes. But I also just wanted to point it out because I do think that there is something to be said about the fear of endless consumption itself. Something that Wizards made pretty damn clear with how they designed this bad boy, because visually, Kroxa is absolutely horrifying. This gigantic skeletal titan has exposed rips, molten energy burning through his body, and a massive gaping maw that looks designed to swallow a hot dog or even 2 hot dogs whole. Now, I did say that he appears as a card in Theros Beyond, and that's true, but unlike the other Titans who mostly remain in the background of the mythology, Kroxa actually becomes extremely relevant during the Phyrexian invasion of Theros in March of the Machine. The Phyrexians, quick reminder, are these freaky flesh and machine monsters that have plagued the Magic universe a few times, but at this point they were led by this hottie, Elish Norn, who was turning anyone and everyone that she could find across the multiverse into Phyrexians through a process known as completion. This actually included some of the gods of Theros, like the dead god Erebos and even the dead god of light, Heliod. And during the invasion, the Phyrexians attempted to complete Theros and made their way into the underworld itself, corrupting souls and spreading phyresis through death itself, and this became a huge problem for the gods because the underworld is deeply tied to the cosmic structure of Theros, and the god of death, Erebos, was just turned into a half-machine, half-deity himself. But of course, he wasn't the only god in the underworld. The guardian of the Titans, Klothys, had to leave because of a little trouble caused by Elspeth Tyrell when she escaped the underworld, but Athreos, the ferryman god of passage, was doing his best to fight off the Phyrexians until he saw that they breached Kroxa's prison and did nothing. That's right. Kroxa was chomping down on flesh machines the way that I ripped through a bag of Fritos. So Athreos, against his better judgment, makes the call to shatter Kroxa's prison chains completely and send him into the underworld as essentially the world's most dangerous attack dog. And Kroxa goes absolutely insane on the Phyrexians. One of the coolest details in the story is that Kroxa appears immune to being completed. The Titan is so ancient, primal, and conceptually tied to hunger and death that Phyrexian corruption basically doesn't work on him. So instead of being consumed by the machine plague, he consumes them. Consumption is his domain, and no silly steel-skinned losers could do it better than himself. But Athreos wisely also realized he probably should just not leave Kroxa unattended. Surely that would destroy just the underworld itself too, so he decides to send Kunoros to hang out with Kroxa and keep him in check. Kunoros is the giant three-headed hound of the underworld and magic's equivalent of Cerberus. You're surely familiar with this big puppy, and he's adorably terrifying in magic too. The best part is that we get Kroxa and Kunoros as a card, and I just appreciate the hell out of these two hanging out and destroying Phyrexians together. I mean, just look at them. The Titan of Endless Hunger and the Guardian Hound of Death tearing through an invading army of biomechanical horrors. Honestly, what's there not to love? Uro. Next, we've got Nature's Wrath Uro. He is the other Titan who got a card during Theros Beyond Death, and as a darker fantasy sci-fi guy myself, I kind of have to say, out of all the Titans, this one feels kind of the most like an actual eldritch horror. His name and role are inspired by primordial Greek figures like Uranos, Oceanus, and Gaia, the Titans of the sky, ocean, and earth, but Uro here, he just likes to splash in the water. Uro represents nature's darkest realities. Floods, hurricanes, probably the ice caps melting, all that fun stuff, but that's not what really separates him from his kin. You see, Kroxa and the others, they're pretty easy to understand. Fire, hunger, darkness, they kind of get in people's business and cause problems up close and personal, but Uro here, he's kind of a shy guy, and he truly feels ancient beyond human understanding. The reason I say that he's got some Lovecraftian vibes going on is because he was said to dwell alone beneath the oceans in the darkest depths by himself, causing chaos and madness above. Some pretty big Cthulhu energy if you ask me, and this huge, mysterious, tendril-covered freak is barely understood even by the Titan standards. Especially when you consider that his card effect is about giving, not taking. He gives you life, he gives you draw, he gives you an extra mana source in the form of another land. Also, as a modern player, I have to say that Kroxa was actually the only of these Titans that is legal in Modern, because Uro got banned pretty quickly just by giving you so crazy card advantage, and he does that in Commander as well if you've ever played against him, or even I know someone who plays them as their commander. It gets pretty out of control fast. But what's the deal with the good stuff? Why are you so kind? What angle are you playing here? What do you know that I don't, Uro? Oh, I see. You realize that to get this channel really kicking, you use the hype feature, right? Yeah. To be honest with you, if you're on mobile and can slide over the like button a little bit and hit that hype button, it generally seems to make a huge difference on the performance for the videos, since the channel is still pretty small, so I'd appreciate it if you can hit it and help me out a little bit. Also, quick note, since I didn't mention it with Kroxa, as you can see, Uro and all the Titans have, of course, the unearth mechanic, which means that once you cast them, they actually go directly into your graveyard, imprisoned in the underworld, but then you can unearth them and free them basically from their dark prison by bringing them back to the battlefield for more mana. A mechanic that was so powerful, it got this next Titan banned fairly recently in Modern as well. Let's talk about Phlage. On the flip side of Uro, there is Phlage, the Titan of Fire's Fury. Unlike the more abstract and conceptual fears that the other Titans embody, Phlage here is pretty simple. Fire. It burns, it destroys, it's primal, and it's destruction itself, to the point where it was just dominating the entire Modern meta for a very long time. Which is of course also why good old Phlage is literally an all-consuming typhoon of flame, a walking inferno that turns entire landscapes into ash simply by existing. Kind of like a Balrog. He draws his inspiration from multiple Greek mythological figures, especially Typhon and Hyperion from Greek mythology, Typhon a wrathful beast of storms, and Hyperion the Titan of light and the sun. And since I know you're wondering, even the name Phlage comes from a flame thing. Its root is Phlegethon, the flame river of the underworld. So everything about this Titan really ties back to uncontrollable fire and catastrophic destruction. A really unique aspect of Phlage actually is that they were not around with the other Titans as a card for a very long time. They were just a name and a lore drop, but then they became newly relevant thanks again to our favorite set, Modern Horizons 3, finally receiving his own card years after Kroxa and Uro appeared in earlier sets. And even though, like his brother Uro, he ended up being a little bit too strong for certain formats, in that there is still something I really appreciate about Wizards here, which is that they sometimes take lore that has already been established and then give it a card later on in a set that doesn't really have an established storyline. Think about Modern Horizons, whatever you will. But also, even Wizards realized that fire has the hearthy good side on it too, the white mana part of it, and made the effect so that Phlage has a play on fire in both ways. Phlage deals damage, and you heal from it. They experience the torment of Fire's wrath, and you get a nice little warm hug and kiss on the forehead. Thank you, Phlage. Which now brings us to Skotha. The opposite of fire, Skotha is the titan of eternal darkness, and I'm not talking about the 2002 GameCube horror game that's really meta. Skotha might just be the most fascinating titan simply because we know so little about them. Because unlike all the other three, Skotha has not yet received a proper card, existing mostly through secondary lore references through, get this, the Dungeons and Dragons Theros expansion. All we truly know is that its name comes from Skotos, meaning darkness in Greek, and it's specifically associated with the fear of a starless night. But I want to take a moment here to talk about why I think Skotha is the creepiest, and in terms of Theros, the scariest titan of them all. You see, on Theros, the night sky of Nyx is normally beautiful. The gods literally live within the stars themselves, and Nyx, the realm of stars, is what creates these gods, titans, and beasts, and somehow Skotha represents the exact opposite of that. The heavens created a titan that is the opposite of the heavens itself. Now, thematically, this sort of means that Skotha represents the fear of no higher power, the sheer terror of the end and nothing controlling existence itself, no gods watching overhead, nothing to explain the order of things, pure emptiness, pure darkness, the absence of Nyx on Theros. Honestly, that kind of makes Skotha feel terrifyingly cosmic compared to the other titans, and low-key, they might just be my sleeper pick for my favorite because of that itself. The Titans' true purpose. Okay, so we've learned about who the Titans are and their different degrees of representation in the series. So now what? Why do they even matter? Well, I personally find it very interesting that unlike the actual Greek mythology, they are not the parents of the Gods of Theros. You see, in Greek myth, the Titans are kind of an older ruling generation overthrown by then the Olympians, but on Theros, the Titans just function completely differently. They're way less of a divine family tree and much more of a narrative force that allowed the gods themselves to rise. There is no natural storyline to follow with them being evil rulers, overthrown by their children, blah blah blah. Instead, it almost feels like Nyx created the Titans so that Nyx could create the gods to rule over humanity. It's very interesting because the Titans are the problem that required the gods to come into existence in the first place. These beings represent primal fears too massive for mortals to confront alone: hunger, fire, nature's wrath, eternal darkness. Civilization itself could not survive while these colossal embodiments of fear rampaged freely across the world, and so humanity had to turn towards belief, worship, and collective hope, and through Nyx, that belief gave rise to the Gods of Theros. Thus, in a way, the Titans are almost responsible for creating the original pantheon, and I do wonder if that's why Nyx created them in the first place. Personally, I kind of find it extremely cool that the Titans honestly feel more like a narrative tool than villains here, that these ancient, untouchable concepts that Wizards used in the story to explain why the gods matter at all. I mean, even when Kroxa finally appears and is released during March of the Machine, he isn't even an antagonist. The dreaded Titan of Hunger is just a plot gimmick. He's basically a deus ex machina of primal destruction unleashed against an even worse threat, protecting Theros, when all we know about him is that he should be this pure force of evil, but he's not, and he's got a puppy now. And that's just the coolest twist here, to me at least. Like, the Titans don't actually seem malicious, they absolutely subvert genre expectations, they exist to represent fear before the gods and to bolster the power of the gods by giving humanity a need to worship something. Now, we talked about them a lot, of course, but what's going on with the gods? Who are they? Well, if you haven't yet, you should really watch this video from last time where I break all of them down, their dominions, and how their cards line up with the lore surrounding them. Otherwise, really thank you so much for watching. I really hope we get another Theros set, honestly, and I would love to get some new Titans, especially the Darkness one. Hopefully we'll get some of these cards soon. Otherwise, have a fantastic week, and I'll hopefully see you in that video.